When I was working on a recent video on the Theaetetus, I thought of including a reference to Plato's divided line. On second thought, though, I decided that this issue actually deserves a video of its own. There is a really important issue here in the divided line. Without seeing this, we cannot fully appreciate the significance of what Plato diagrammed for us in this section of his Republic. Now, I imagine that most of you watching this are already at least somewhat familiar with the divided line. To make sure we are all on the same page, though, I will say a few quick words about it. The divided line is introduced at the end of Book 6 of Plato's Republic. It divides our cognitive functions into 4 unequal sections. The length of each section is relative to the power of that cognitive function. So we can see, for example, that knowledge is more powerful than image thinking. Belief and understanding are actually equal in length, and there is an important reason for this. Here is an exchange in Book 5 of the Republic that set much of the groundwork for the divided line. At this juncture, though, Socrates only set up 3 categories: ignorance, knowledge, and something in between. Does he who knows something or nothing? I will reply that he knows something. Is it something that is or is not? That is. How could that which is not be known? We are sufficiently assured of this, then, even if we should examine it from every point of view, that that which entirely is entirely knowable, and that which in no way is in every way unknowable? Most sufficiently. Good. If a thing, then, is so conditioned as both to be and not to be, would it not lie between that which absolutely and unqualifiedly is and that which in no way is? Between. Then, since knowledge pertains to that which is, and ignorance of necessity to that which is not, for that which lies between, we must seek for something between nescience and science, if such a thing there be. By all means. Is there a thing which we call opinion? Surely. Is it a different faculty from science, or the same? A different. Then opinion is set over one thing and science over another, each by virtue of its own distinctive power or faculty. That is so. We can see very easily in the divided line that belief and understanding are both in the middle. They actually function at the same power, and this is because they both have assumptions at their root. However, there is a significant difference between them. Plato took the faculty of opinion that he had set up in Book 5 and split it into 2 for his divided line. At the level of belief, we are directing our focus on the physical world, the wall of Plato's proverbial cave. The way Plato is using the idea of understanding, in contrast, refers specifically to focusing on the world of absolute realities depicted by the upper world outside of the cave. Even though understanding focuses on the eidos, or what is known in academia as the Platonic forms, it is focused on them as objects of understanding. It is a weaker power than that of knowing, and so understanding is still only dreaming about knowing. The remnant, which we said did in some sort lay hold on reality, geometry and the studies that accompany it, are, as we see, dreaming about being. But the clear waking vision of it is impossible for them as long as they leave the assumptions which they employ undisturbed and cannot give any account of them. For where the starting point is something that the reasoner does not know, and the conclusion and all that intervenes is a tissue of things not really known. What possibility is there that assent in such cases can ever be converted into true knowledge or science? And so this brings us to a crucial distinction between understanding and knowing. The state of knowing, as Plato uses the word, is a state that challenges conventional notions as to the limits of human ability. It is a movement beyond all assumptions to a state of oneness with the object of knowledge. Some people might call this a mystical state. Plato, however, by including it on this diagram, is suggesting that this state of mind is perfectly normal. It is within the human range of cognitive functions. It is a difficult state of mind to achieve, and it requires the kind of education that is outlined in his dialogue Republic. But there is nothing magical or fanciful about it. Okay, so this is the divided line. But now the issue that I raised in the title. How do we move through it? How does a person move from belief to understanding, or from understanding to knowing? Well, the short answer is, it is a jump. An important thing to understand about this diagram is that each of the cognitive functions is incommensurate with the others. What that means is, no matter how long one spends, say, in the world of belief, no matter how well versed a person is on the contents of that cognitive function, they will never learn so much as to graduate up to understanding. These are different cognitive functions, and they focus on different objects. From a spiritual standpoint, this means that no amount of studying dogma will bring a person to understanding, as Plato is using that word. On the secular level, this holds as well for anything in our physical world that is not in line with ultimate reality. This, I think, is easy enough to understand. The realm of belief is infinite, as are the other cognitive functions as well. The size of each division represents its respective power, not its size. There is no end to belief that will link to some beginning of understanding. That is not how it works. Belief and understanding aim towards different objects. But what about understanding and knowing? They are both focused on the absolute realities of the intelligible world. So can understanding be developed so thoroughly that it eventually becomes knowledge? Every time you reread a piece of wisdom literature, you see more deeply into it. If you study long enough, does that mean you know it? Or what if you study a few different translations? Well, surely if you learn Greek, that would make you a knower, wouldn't it? What is required to make that shift from understanding to knowing? Is there a degree of understanding that blossoms into knowing? Does knowing mean being able to talk about metaphysics in a way that sounds intelligent? Many people want to say yes, that would be knowing. However, if these sections are incommensurable and infinite, then this is not the way to reach knowledge. Again, these sections are not building blocks that link together. There is no amount of understanding that carries a person into the realm of knowing. Understanding and knowing are two different things. Even though in this case we are dealing with two functions that share the same object, they are each functioning at a different power. Understanding is focusing on these objects as objects of understanding, and that limits its grasp of them. And these powers, remember, are incommensurable with one another. What this means is that all the work that we do to gain understanding is setting the foundation for knowing, but it does not culminate there. Moving from belief to understanding, and from understanding into knowing, requires what is often described as a leap. You might think of each of these sections as analogous to realms of reality that are each infinite at their own proper power. Image thinking is analogous to our physical world, much like the prisoners who stare at shadows on the wall and hear sounds that bounce off the walls of the cave. This realm is tied to perceptions. The physical world is vast and infinite, yet somehow there are realms beyond it. The realm of nature is next, also vast and infinite. It is tied to life and to thoughts, perceptions and instincts that never separate from the physical world. This lack of separation allows us to put belief as analogous to this realm. And while this realm, too, is infinite at its own proper power, the realm of soul is beyond it. The realm of soul is our bridge to the intelligible realm. As such, it can be seen as analogous to understanding. It looks to nous, or intellect, but it does not possess it. As a soul matures, however, it may participate in nous. This is what it means to step out into the upper world. And the upper world, marked by nous, is known in our metaphysics as being, or as mind, or as the intelligible. This, of course, would be analogous in this construct to knowing. It might be interesting in this context to consider Proclus's 93rd proposition in his Elements of Theology. It reads, "All infinitude in things which have being is infinite neither to the superior orders nor to itself. For to whomsoever anything is infinite, to him it is also uncircumscribed. But among things which have being, each is determinate both to itself and to all principles prior to it. It remains, then, that the infinitude in such things is infinite only to inferior principles, above which it is so supereminent in potency, and potency or power is key here to how these infinitudes can supersede one another. It is so supereminent in potency as to escape the grasp of any of them. For though they extend themselves toward it with whatsoever reach, yet it has something which altogether transcends them. Though all of them enter into it, yet it has something which for secondary beings is occult and incomprehensible. Though they unfold the potencies contained in it, yet it has something unattainable in its unity, an unexpanded life which evades their explication. But containing and determining itself as it does, it cannot be infinite for itself, and still less for those above it, since it possesses but a parcel of the infinitude which is in them. For the potencies of the more universal terms are more infinite, being themselves more universal and nearer in rank to the primal infinity." And so with this, Proclus has introduced a concept that we might call relative infinity. Realms are infinite to those below them, but not to themselves or to those energies that are beyond them. As souls traversing through the cognitive functions, we have the potential to experience the whole range of powers that are depicted in the divided line. While in the cave, we only know those lower energies. A person who is functioning at belief also understands image thinking. However, the higher energies of understanding, as Plato uses that word, are beyond this person. There are some people who never gain an interest in perennial wisdom. Sure, they are aware of it, They have heard of Plato and of Eastern systems such as Buddhism and Hinduism. They know there are famous voices even here in the West, such as Alan Watts and Aldous Huxley. It just doesn't matter to them. Everyone watching this video, however, has something in common. For us, something clicked. We made that jump from belief to understanding. It is in some ways a mysterious jump. Why me and not her? Why you and not him? Why today but not yesterday? Whatever the reason, something clicks. That's really the only way I know how to describe it. It just clicks. We make that jump, that incommensurate leap from one cognitive function to the next. The journey to gain understanding is again a raising of energies, and there is something to the theory that once our energy matures, we will make the leap to knowing. It is not quite that linear, though. Some people do get stuck, and their blocks can lock them into a pattern of gaining infinite insights at the dianoetic level, the level of understanding, but going no further. And this is key. Understanding is infinite. A person could theoretically spend their whole life gaining more and more insight into metaphysics and into the nature of reality, but all at the level of understanding. It is possible to keep growing and yet never make that leap into knowing. When experience does unfold, it is often sudden and inexplicable. We cannot fully explain why me, why now, and yet somehow we make that jump, and suddenly the whole world looks different. We are flooded with light. Our dreams are different, and we understand things that we had not understood before. All of the metaphysical insights we had gained at the level of understanding take on a vitality that had only been cerebral before. Those earlier insights were not necessarily wrong, but now we recognize that before we were limited by the limited energy we had been functioning at. And so each of these cognitive functions, much like the realms of reality, enjoys what I will call relative infinity. And this allows each cognitive function to be incommensurable with the others. It is for this reason that we need to approach our studies theurgically. Otherwise, we run the risk of getting stuck at the lower dianoetic energies. I've linked some videos that address this theurgic aspect of our studies. Please share your comments below. And as always, I thank you for watching. Till next time.